Uy,
Bueno, pues venga, vamos a dar.
At Blizzcon in 2019, we started to talk about progression, and we showed the very early version of our talent system, which I think was really cool. We had that one talent where like Meg became the rolling snowball. We've really blown that system out.
I'm really excited about talents. You can play the
Sí,
same hero in so many different ways.
creo que hay
Now with the
talentos
skill
y
tree,
habilidades.
You can have fun every night doing different
El
things
modelo
and
de
kind of
Messi es bonito, cojones.
experimenting.
Yeah, the talent system is like
Aquí, espera,
really
Andy, para.
deep and rich, and
Que ahí se ven
every
un par de
single
más. Ahí se ven
hero
un par más.
Espera,
You can have fun every night doing
Dale tú.
different things and kind of
Espera, sí, estoy
experimenting.
preparado.
Yeah, the talent
Vale.
Mira, de hecho, si lo hacemos bien, que se puede ver más.
system is
Coño,
like
qué asco de habilidad.
really deep.
Qué asco la
Excited about
habilidad.
talents. You can play the
Me da
same
tiempo a
hero in
leerla
so
por
many
encima.
different
Momento,
ways.
paro
Now
yo,
with the skill tree, you
Venga.
can
Ahora
have
paro.
fun every night doing different things and kind of experimenting.
Yeah, the talent
Mira,
system is
lee la
like
habilidad. Bueno, la habilidad era que cuando rompes la barrera, ganas un escudo por el 50% de tu vida o del escudo. Cada vez que te rompes el escudo.
Madre mía. Yo sé lo primero, ¿eh? O sea, eso lo desbloquea, vamos.
No, es la de medio, la derecha en medio. Derecha,
Ah,
una,
vale,
dos.
sí, vale, sí, ya lo veo.
La que está en medio de escudo para adelante o algo así. Era una de esas dos. O sea, las habilidades de Reinhardt son. Es más pequeño que el de soldado, por cierto. Creo, me da esa sensación. Pero la habilidad definitiva de Reinhardt de medio es el Shift. La de la derecha, ni puta idea. Tiene el símbolo de PS. Supongo que se curará cuando haga daño o alguna mierda así. Y el último y el de la izquierda no sé qué es.
No sé. A ver, que muchas cosas de estas las cambiarán de aquí a que salga.
Esa pasiva mola. La primera pasiva que tiene de Reinhardt mola. Le da jugabilidad. La de medio, la que está ahora.
Yo no. Imagino que solo podrá activar un árbol de estos tres.
Supongo, a lo mejor para hacer mezcla de los tres.
No, es como el WoW. Tú estás en el WoW y tienes diferentes. Por ejemplo, Caballero de Sangre, el TPS, no me acuerdo cómo era la carrera. Hay tiempo en el juego. Pues solo podías elegir un modo.
Pues yo creo que sí, supongo que se podrá activar un árbol de los tres.
Supongo que la de izquierda es para ser medio obsta. Supongo que la de izquierda todo será para hacer DPS tanqueando un poco. La de medio es para ir para adelante y ya está. Y la derecha simplemente para tanquear.
Según se ve, sí.
Venga,
Imagina,
continuamos. Venga.
really deep and rich, and every single hero has different trees. You might open up 76's tree, and as you're leveling and picking your talents, you're starting to feel your hero
Lo que he dicho.
change.
Lo he leído, pero momento para ello. Las habilidades esas que hemos dicho antes. Momento para ello,
Biotic field travels with him.
Hostia.
It also
momento para ello. Las habilidades que hemos visto antes del árbol lo he dicho. Aumentan el daño y aumentan que cada vez que mates con el ulti aumenta el tiempo del ulti.
pulses enemies. We call
para
it the
ser
snowplow
una arma
build,
efectiva, sí.
where 76 is like running through
Adiós.
spaces, pushing enemies
Hostia,
away
¿qué
from
dices?
them.
Designing these is super fun because it's like we get to break all the rules that we've sort of established for ourselves, and we get to really take the gloves off and do crazy things like Junkrat can dual wield grenade launchers, and we've had Mercy be able to area effect res.
Sí, está en área como hacía antes.
Sí, el ulti antiguo.
Mad scientists making all this stuff.
You're all used to using these kind of kinetic weapons like Soldier 76's rifle or fire attack like what Reinhardt's Flame Strike does. As soon as you start to mutate these things with talents, all of a sudden maybe you're doing freeze damage or electrical damage, but it gives the animators a bunch of crazy opportunities. You know, the animations are going to change to show them freezing and shattering. And if you shock someone with a lightning attack, it can shake in place and stun.
Esto de Winston hasta me parecía medianamente bien para el modo normal.
In novel ways.
Pero bueno, para que Winston no fuera el botón y ya.
Talent tree systems, it was like, oh my gosh, this is speaking my love language. Like, I just want to plan and I want to see like
Sí,
where
vamos,
do I
lo
want to
le
invest and how am I going to play this
Congela.
character.
Yes, it's so great. And you start at the bottom of the tree. Like,
Yes,
oh my,
exactly.
like Tracer gets to do what? And then you start working and kind of planning how you're gonna get down there. It's like, it's so fun.
Ah, sí, luego comento una cosa de esto.
When we
Luego
look
te veo.
back at BlizzCon 2019 and we talk about some of the criticisms that we had, one of them as a development team that we felt was that the combat was just not engaging enough. So the fact that our combat wasn't highly engaging to us as players meant that we had a problem with the enemy units and that they just weren't feeling interesting enough.
Just because we show something to the public, it doesn't mean that that is what it's going to be. If we make discoveries where things aren't working how we want, they're not reading how we want, they're not fun enough, we're totally down to reinvestigate, reiterate, and just really find ways to level kind of all aspects of things until they feel good.
I would say a major focus of all of 2020 was to make the null sector enemy units more engaging. And some of this was adding new units and evolving other units that we had.
Interesting combat for us is varied combat for us. So sometimes we're going to ask you to protect something in Overwatch 2. Sometimes we're just going to ask you to get someplace. Sometimes we might ask you to escort something across a map while it's being attacked. And so it's a different type of spawning, and it's a different type of units that are in there, and it's a simpler objective.
There's a lot of units Aaron is talking about. Lots of different units, lots of different types. They serve different purposes. You do different things to them. It's really going to help a lot of us find the fun and make sure that Overwatch 2 is a blast.
One of those sets of enemies is what we internally call objective units. And they're typically units that don't even attack players. The simplest version would be something like the Breacher.
It's two legs with this huge bomb on its back. It was built to do one thing, slowly and methodically march towards its objective, and then it
A mí me recuerda que está en el juego actualmente.
and the bomb opens up like a flower,
Porque hace lo
starts
mismo.
spinning and charging up, and
Sí,
you
sé cuál
hear
dices,
this
sí.
awesome sound, and you know you have a little bit of time before it's going to explode.
Sí,
and
pero
you
me
have to
entiendes
take
que es
it
muy
out.
parecido al que está en el juego. O sea, la idea es la misma. Es un objetivo que ya lentamente hasta esta CPU. Hacer otra cosa, pues el que está en el juego es igual.
The slicers,
De-
which you
no-
can
no
see
es la misma
before,
idea, pero
they're little-
parecidísimo.
We call them the chickens, the little chicken snares. They run really fast. You know, we
Sí,
have
es lo que
better
han dicho,
frame
han
rate
estado
right now,
evolucionando
he flies and
a
drops these bombs that
enemigos
create
que ya
these
están
kind
en
of
el
ever
juego.
expanding smoke
Bien
fields
pelotazo.
you have to escape from, but because they're super deadly, so you really get to use your mobility options to kind of escape that.
There's things like the Polar. You can be
Ese
looking
personaje me
through
encanta.
these
El diseño está
darker
chulo.
alleys, and as soon as you hear that Polar spawn, it suddenly becomes like really
Que por
spooky.
cierto, creo que te
and
Es como
one-shotea.
scary.
es como
Very
la
tall,
witch del Left
elegant
4 Dead, ¿o
looking
qué?
character
Eso.
that's blindfolded.
Sí, vamos,
Three
la
orbs
la
that
es que te
circle
one-shotea
around
este
her
bicho,
as
creo.
her eyes, and we basically spun those orbs around her head as a big tell, launched them at the player, and then it activates this tractor beam, and it's bringing you in, and then you get this awesome like anticipation of the hair
Ves que tiene todavía
opening up,
soldado,
so
¿no?
you know what's about to happen.
Hostia, ¿qué dices?
One thing we've
¿Qué
just
dices?
recently been experimenting with is this idea of elite units. We didn't want the elite units to feel like they're just. Oh, this
Esto
guy's
es-
got
esto es
double
el
health or
soldadito
double
pequeño de
damage.
antes que has
We wanna make
visto,
sure
el
the
console de
units
aquí.
feel like they have different behaviors and have different attacks. So, for example, an Omnic Grunt, normally he fires his gun, he dies pretty simply. If you fight elite grunts, his weapon fires in a burst fire pattern. It's very deadly if you're close. And if you manage to take them out, they don't just die right away. They instead can crawl on the ground towards you, and you're trying to
Algo
back
me
away.
dice Enrique, mire el
'Cause,
Discord.
if they get to you, they can explode.
Artillery at BlizzCon. We're all just staring at this, and we're like, what are we going to do to level this up?
One of the things we really felt wasn't coming through was the damage states. We intend for players to shoot these guns off, but currently it's not reading as something that can happen in the game easily.
We change the design, we change the animation, and we go back and forth and just continually iterate.
We decided, hey, you know what? We're gonna just delete half of these damage states, so now it's super readable.
From an animation standpoint, we decided on the spinning barrel version. Just did this really nice kickback. The tip of the barrel opens up when it's about to fire and shifts into place and boom!
It's really amazing to be fighting an artillery unit, and you can see the guns on the side, and as you're shooting the guns, they're actually visibly taking damage, and then you can blow them off, and it reacts and kind of stumbles to the side, and it really makes you feel like you're there, and it's super fun.
In a lot of the stuff we've showed so far, you're
Sí, se
fighting
los
those,
están currando,
these
los
evil killing
conceptos.
machines intent on marching you down. The way you're
Hombre,
gonna stop them
si
is
si
by
el modo
shooting them.
PvE son
And
los
we
mismos
wanna make
bichos
sure
que
that
antes, pero
feels
más dificultad, más
responsive,
hagamos más.
visceral. Really making sure that when they take a hit, it feels like
Eso
their
me hace
whole
gracia,
body
¿vale?
has been punched, almost like hit
Lo
by
de
a truck.
reventarlos.
That's what really
Sí, porque salen
sells
volando.
this
Ahora entiendes
fantasy
por qué.
that you're playing these superheroes.
Ah, te
One
lo
of the cool
enseñaré yo.
pieces of technology that we created was what we call chain hit reactions. Oftentimes, you'll find Null Sector bunched up, marching maybe a half a dozen units abreast. You expect if you shoot one, they're going to knock into their buddies. So we make that happen.
Eso es el arma, ¿vale?
Turns out it's really
Hostia.
fun too.
Espera.
¡Hala, qué dices!
A ver,
Hostia.
por eso me hace gracia.
One of the things that we showed last year at Blizzcon was the new looks for our
Mira,
heroes.
chino hablado.
The theory
Hablo
kind of
chino,
going
pero
in
no.
was like, you want to preserve the essence of your hero, but also kind of show that that hero's evolved and kind of changed and moved forward. So we have a lot more new looks. So I'm excited to see how players and fans react to all of the ones that we've done so far.
Hay personajes que
Maybe
deberían
we'll share
cambiarlos con el
some of
paso del
those
tiempo,
new
simplemente
looks,
porque han mejorado. Lo pueden
today,
mejorar como
which
son
would be
Bastion y
cool.
Oriso, pero bueno.
We're going to reveal McCree's new look for Overwatch 2 as well as Pharah. And we're really excited to show off some of our first villains with Reaper and Widowmaker.
Y no
But
han
first I
metido
want to talk a
cambio
little
todavía
bit
en la página
about
de
technical
Overwatch
wear,
2.
kind of like technical clothing. What that
No
really
tiene
is
nada pasado.
using very techy
Debería enseñar
fabrics,
soldado porque se ha
as
visto
well
también,
as,
pero bueno.
having very intricate but functional straps designed in a way that it's very aesthetically pleasing. With McCree,
No me
we
gusta
took
el
a couple
McCree, tío.
different approaches.
No
Es
me
igual
gusta
que
Macri.
Classic
Es
cowboy
muy
look
parecido al de
that
antes.
It's really hard to mess with because if you try to make him too sophisticated
Pero
or
bueno,
too
de antes
techy, it might not
simplemente
feel
que
right for the
los
character.
colores
But
son
as a
muy
concept
raros.
artist, you always want to change things around and try different shapes and silhouettes. So we did identify as Red
De
Serape
hecho,
as the main thing.
me
for
gusta
McCree.
más
We also tried
unas
a
ideas que
couple
tenían de
different things with
conceptuales. Me
McCree's
gusta más
cowboy
como.
hat. We didn't really want to mess with that too much
¿Ves?
because that's a very iconic part of him. So that's another piece that we kept. We tried some retro cowboy looks that mixed in some
Lo paro
tech
yo,
here
un
and there.
momento para esperarlo.
Some that were a little bit more techy than others, some that were a little bit more
Dime que el de.
classic
El
cowboy.
de.
El último tiene que ser una
Again,
skin,
a little
¿eh?
bit of a longer beard.
Tendría así.
And
Tendría
I
que
think
ser una
it's
skin
a
ese.
nice kind of like
Es que lo paro yo, lo habéis parado
look.
vosotros.
What's
Yo
different
no lo he
about
parado.
Pharah than some of our other
¿Lo paro?
Pues,
Ya está.
lo quería parar antes para verlo, espera. Para que lo veáis bien.
¿Puedes mover? Ahí.
Ahí. Espérate, le doy, Dale.
some that were a little bit more techy than others.
Y lo paro. Ahí está. Para que la veamos bien, coño.
Tendría que
La
ser una
de-
skin.
El de en medio me gusta más de que lo que hay ahora porque es diferente y el de derecho debe ser una skin. Me recuerda al Red Dead, obviamente.
Sí, es que es el Red Dead eso.
Sí,
Tiene
no
que
se
ser
va a
una
hacer-
skin. Tiene que ser
Sí,
una
es
skin
Red
ese.
Hay una skin legendaria de Macri que la puedo hacer en el online de Red Dead.
Claro, me gusta más
Vale.
el diseño de la cara. O sea, barba, pelo, me gusta más.
El de en medio el de en medio me gusta más que el que han hecho, Yo creo que es parecido al que hay.
Es parecido al que han hecho.
Pero me gusta más que este que el que han hecho. Pero bueno. Darle que le tenga que dar.
Voy.
Some that were a little bit more some that were a little bit more classic cowboy. We gave him a little bit of a longer beard, and it really gives him a nice kind of like a more aged look. What's different about Pharah than some of our other heroes?
A ver si te das
is
cuenta.
Pharah's completely covered in armor. We didn't want to change
¿Te
his
das cuenta
silhouette
de
too
qué?
much.
De que
It
cambia
was more
fuera.
about experimenting on different colors.
Pues no
So
sé,
it
la
felt really
armadura.
appropriate for
No sé,
her to
tiene
be
más
the
cosas
one
la
to
armadura.
harken back
El-
to those
el color.
original Overwatch colors.
A ver, aquí. Hostia, la verdad es que la primera no me gustó nada, Y mira que a mí me gusta el amarillo, pero uff, no me gusta. La primera.
El de en medio es una actualización de la que tiene normal.
Y la otra pues es la azul. A mí me gustaría que hubiesen sacado sin el casco. Quiero verle a ver la cara si se la han cambiado. O sea, la cara, el pelo, si se lo han cambiado, ¿sabes?
Y me gusta bastante lo que han hecho con el casco porque el visor es transparente.
Y lo dicen, se lo dicen ahora. Vale, a ti.
Bueno, espérate, luego le doy.
Blue. One of the things that we wanted to update
¿Ves?
on Pharah was her visor. Instead of being completely opaque and reflective, we tried a little bit more of a transparent approach, and being able to see through it a little bit now allows us to see some more of her emotions.
El que más me
Reaper
gusta
was
te enseñar es
actually the
este.
ones I was very excited to work on because I could see a lot of potential in how we can integrate his cloak and his cowl and his armor and how we can make all those shapes really sing within that classic, Reaper silhouette. We tried a couple takes with the first pass, like the completely silver arms, more
No hay
layers.
ninguna
to
que
his
me
jacket.
llame
Reaper's
especialmente la
mask is
atención.
obviously
A mí me gusta
pretty
mucho
sacred to
como ha
us.
hecho River, me gusta
But the
mucho.
thing you'll notice immediately is that it's now completely silver. Instead of the bone white, he's got this like almost like deadly edgy silver that just gives him that classic Reaper look. With Widowmaker, we started with the idea stage, exploring a breadth of ideas.
Vale, aquí sí que vamos a pararlo para ver los dos. Hostia, la primera es un poquito anime, ¿no?
Sí. Y el de medio parece Lara Croft, pero versión cutre.
Es verdad. Hostia, pues el tercero me mola, a mí. Es como un poquito sombra, con la degradación de color ahí. Y la coleta es un poco rara. Me gustaría que fuese una skin la tercera, la verdad.
O la cuarta parece la cuarta.
Pero la cuarta no es la que le han puesto.
La cuarta es la que he puesto.
Sí, pues la cuarta me recuerda, y tal igual han hecho ahora, no me saldrá. A la skin que dieron por preordenar el juego.
Ah, sí, más o menos.
Con otros colores, pero sí.
Más o menos, sí, tienes razón.
Things like a more insectoid approach, treasure hunter. One of them made her feel like a classic Bond villain, so we kind of steered it back towards one of the more cyberpunk-looking ones, almost like a futuristic femme fatale, which is basically what Widowmaker is, but she even feels more upgraded. So I'm super glad that we went down this route. We played with different hairstyles too. Widowmaker has the really long ponytail that's really key part of her look. And we really liked the hairstyle on one of the designs that was more braid, and it was really interesting look.
Este era el dibujo original, que como tiene utiliza círculo más grande.
No lo sé.
We've been working a lot with our domino engine and making our cloth look better. Now that we have this cloth tech, we're going to be able to make some really cool, unique silhouettes that will help them stand out from other heroes. We put a lot of time and effort into our face rig, and what I mean by that is we're going to be able to get really close to these characters, and it's going to feel really cool. It is absolutely worth the time and the effort to invest in the technology, and that way we can make these characters do more things that we haven't really
been able to do. Sí, pero que era gracioso que cada vez que te
It's been super exciting work on the new looks for Overwatch 2. It's just been so inspiring to watch the team try things that we've never tried before, and I just can't wait to show up more in the future.
Is probably the largest opportunity we've had since the inception of the franchise to really expand what Overwatch even means.
Es que me encanta el rediseño de Lucio, de verdad, no me canso de decirlo, me encanta.
A mí de Reinhardt, es maravilloso.
El de Reinhardt también, sí, también.
Yo quiero ver el de Brillito, el de Diva, tiene que ser muy aquí de esos dos.
Que han cambiado, claro.
Diva tiene.
Diva sí, pero Brigitte no sé yo,
Diva tiene por el mecha. Más que nada porque recuerdo que el mecha estaba destruido.
Sí, yo creo que le meterán algún cambio al mecha, lo van a hacer más bonito o algo. Menudo mulámenes que le han metido a las suyos, ¿no?
Stick. Cinematic intros and outros for every one of our story missions.
It's been really great to see this collaboration.
No sé por qué tiene la habitación que te puedo meditar, pero la tiene.
The story is just a little more integrated into our missions than it ever really has been before. All the available heroes get dialogue for a given mission. We have NPCs. We have multiple hero choices.
We have all sorts of events that are happening that are driving players to interact with each other or parts of the environment or other characters.
The world of Overwatch is this bright, shiny future. So how do you take that bright, shiny future and create conflict in it? How dark can the world of Overwatch go?
The different challenges that these characters are going to have to overcome in Overwatch 2 are things that they haven't ever dealt with before or dealt with on this scale. So what we had to do was literally strip it down to this bare bones of where are these characters in their lives. Overwatch has been disbanded, and now there's a situation where the world's in trouble again, and the world needs the heroes again, but they're not allowed to be doing what they were supposed to be doing.
We started to book these off-site locations so we could brainstorm over and over different versions of what the Overwatch 2 story campaign could be.
We basically had these whiteboards that we were carting around everywhere.
And we would just write every day story beats with the characters, who was doing what and where, and oh my gosh, we forgot this character.
We had these giant sticky notes, and each one of them would be a mission with a bunch of notes on it. You know, somebody say, well, what if we moved Rio to the end, and they'd physically grab it off the wall and stick it on the end.
And we did this for a while, you know, until we all felt that it was pretty close to what we wanted.
Then we could send it to our writers' rooms. The writers' rooms then had a much clearer direction of where we wanted this process to go.
Ultimately, we come up with something that we think is right for the game. And then we pitch it back to the game team, and they point out everything that we missed.
And that allows us to actually back up and go and make it right and make it better.
Because the scale of this story is so huge, it takes place over the whole world, basically. It just requires a constant iteration, constant refinement to make the story as best as we can make it.
From writing, we go to storyboards. The storyboards get crafted with the edit. From there, it'll go to a previs department where they'll start to flesh it out in 3D. Once we've kind of figured out our camera work and our cinematography, that'll then go to the animation department. And then we end up going.
Hostia, ¿me estás diciendo en serio que Sombra y Genji se van a enfrentar en una cinemática? Yo quiero ver eso.
Hombre, Genji tenemos de dejar la Mira,
mira, yo quiero ver esto ya, pero madre mía.
With the gameplay. So if the intro cinematic ends with this huge battle, this huge war, when you get into the game, it has to mesh and feel the exact same way and blend together.
We really are also trying to get the music to be equally as consistent from in-game cinematics straight through to the mission. Adam Burgess, our lead composer, has been working with the IGC team, with the game team, developing themes for all of the heroes, all of the locations.
As the cinematic director, whatever we're crafting should never override the gameplay. We want to make sure that the player's experience going from the cinematic to the gameplay is seamless and it feels like a completely immersive experience.
The engineers, we have to find a way to actually make that come to fruition. The choreo tool is a tool that allows people to coordinate different events to happen at the same time. Like in Rio, if you played our demo, one of the buildings explodes. And so that kind of event needs to happen as you're running by, and you need to have it timed, because if it blows up too early, then you don't see it. It allows story moments in missions that interact with the environment, that interact with our characters.
The new tech, the new abilities that we have now are allowing us to push our storytelling farther than we could have previously.
What's also really powerful about choreo is that, you know, if somebody has an idea, they can mock things up really quickly.
We got to show the Widowmaker making this awesome introduction. Casey was able to quickly put a really rough prototype in choreo, and Philip would come in and on the fly, he's making quick changes. They play tested something that would normally take weeks. It was done in like a matter of days.
Each story mission has its own custom map built for it, and these maps are absolutely gigantic.
India is one of our biggest maps, and it's a fun map because it has a few story beats that we've taken from comics and characters in the game.
We've written a history for each city so that the cities feel
No, pero
lifted,
acabas de
and I
decir
think that
lo que acabas de decir
informs
con
the
es solo
artists
historia.
so that they know like what it is that the city is.
Lo que acabas de decir es solo de historia.
Gothenburg was our chance to show Torbjorn's workshop. We created a space that kind of fits his height, so there's, you know, step ladders and scalable tables. We designed the space as if we were Torb, you know? Molten steel is pouring out of walls. It's pretty epic when you walk into it. Toronto is under siege by Null Sector when the players arrive here. There's a dynamic snowstorm. So as you make your way through the level, the snow is slowly building up. Suddenly by the end, the characters are caught in this gigantic snowstorm and they must fight their way through.
We want to give you choice to be able to play this character or that character. So we're designing a lot of systems around how their relationships develop over the course of the story missions in the campaign.
We have a cast of many characters all on screen, all at the same time, and it's fantastic to actually see them all interacting and working together in ways that we've never actually seen. We've always thought about it and hoped for it, but now it's actually happening.
It actually requires us to have a whole new branching dialogue system. If you happen to have Genji and Mercy in the second mission of the game, you might get different dialogue that's about their relationship.
Bring characters to life in ways that everybody has fallen in love with, from inside Blizzard to the fans. Just to hear this collection of actors all together, all interacting, has been a real treat. Hammer down!
El actor de voz de Genji es muy papu,
How many people are involved when it comes to something like telling the story of Overwatch? It doesn't just come from a singular person. It comes from a group, and it's a really talented, fun group that all works together.
We've been developing what we hope is one of the best stories ever. There's some key story moments that I'm really excited about, and I really can't wait to see how people react to it.
Faltaba más como baptismo, me da la sensación.
We've been talking about the game, about this universe. I know you all love it so much.
Right now, we can sit down and have a night of Overwatch 2 and have it be a really fun experience. And I think we need some more time till we can say it's perfectly polished in the way that we want it.
We've made such incredible strides since we first announced this and showed it to the community at Blizzcon in 2019.
The thing that I'm most excited about is that moment when we hand the game over to the players.
We want to create something that really moves people, really touches people.
That's why we do it. We create the game because we want it to become part of your life and for you to experience it.
For Overwatch 2, we're upping the bar.
It's kind of 5 games in one. It's a huge undertaking.
The new tech and the new aesthetics for the new looks bring you closer to the characters that you love, and we're just getting started.
The fidelity of the gameplay experience is much richer.
We are making cinematics that push the boundary of what we can do to tell stories.
We want this dynamic world. We want things to feel alive.
I'm really looking forward to being able to expand the world of Overwatch for our players.
We're really trying to tell this epic story.
In order to make a game great, it takes time, energy, collaboration.
We have just an incredibly professional team of designers and artists and engineers.
We just love bringing this world to you guys. So many cool characters. It's just a blast working on it.
Our goal is for Overwatch 2 to be the worthy successor to the first game, to be the next evolution, and to be a true sequel.
We have big plans, so thank you for sticking with us.
We're gonna cross the finish line, and I know it's gonna be awesome.
I hope people just end up loving playing it over and over.
That's what we want to try and capture. I'm jumping in, I'm playing, let's go be heroes.
Buah, qué ganas de que salga ya, tío. Qué ganas de que salga ya, Os lo digo de verdad.
Todo lo que jugamos tenemos ganas de que salga.
No, pero sinceramente, si Overwatch hubiese salido este año, yo la verdad es que le tendría más ganas al Overwatch que al Resident Evil. También os lo digo.
En el 7 no se sabe ni de qué va. ¿O el 7?
El 8. Bueno, es que el 8 ya es, madre mía. No sé, ¿algo que queráis comentar? ¿En concreto?
Yo ya lo comenté antes.
Yo tengo una duda. El Dual Sector, han dicho que Widow y Reaper y vamos, todo eso de... Todos ellos son villanos, se han presentado como villanos, pero se supone que en esa historia los villanos van a ser Null Sector y Widow y Reaper y todos estos no tienen ningún vínculo con Null Sector.
Cierto.
¿Te recuerdas la cinemática de Sombra?
No, la final de archivo, la de Tormenta Inminente. ¿Te acuerdas que sale Dunphy hablando con uno del Null Sector? Pues ahí tiene relación. Está conectado con Null Sector.
Piensa que no me acuerdo el nombre de su organización ahora mismo. Blackwatch no es. No, Blackwatch no es.
No, era... no me acuerdo.
Blackwatch era Macri, Moira y alguien más, pero no.
No me acuerdo, pero... No sé, ¿no? Porque Katia Volskaya también se supone que estaba liada con los de Null Sector.
No, estaba protegiendo, estaba intentando hacer cosas para proteger a su país de Null Sector. Luego apareció Sombra y le chantajeó.
Que compraba
sí, compraba la tecnología Null Sector, sí.
Pero eso, estaba intentando para proteger a su
No sé, tío, o sea, Reaper por mucho da igual lo que haya hecho después de Overwatch, pero él se metió a Overwatch por... O sea, él en realidad era bueno. Lo que pasa es que hacía cosas un poquito... Pero al fin y al cabo sus intenciones eran buenas, dentro de lo que cabe.
Como Macri y Moira.
Como Macri y Moira, pero por eso, no sé, me cuesta mucho creer que se hayan aliado con una... No sé si llamarlo compañía o no sé cómo llamarlo. Que está destruyendo el mundo otra vez, o sea, no sé.
Ellos... Sí, básicamente son villanos. O sea, piensa que todos los restos, que no me acuerdo el nombre de la organización ahora, pero todos esos son villanos, todos. Creo que son Moira, Reaper, Widowmaker, Sombra, Doomfist. ¿Alguien me dejo?
De momento que sepamos, no. Hay personajes que no se sabe por qué lado tiran, pero de momento los que sabemos... Bueno, Sombra es un poquito imparcial porque va a su puto rollo y ya solo se preocupa de sí misma.
Pero trabaja con ellos.
Pero trabaja con ellos, sí. Lo que pasa es que cuando le interesa bien, se preocupa por lo suyo. Y hay otros personajes como Hanzo, que no sabemos dónde van a ir a parar. De Hanzo no se ha sabido nada.
Hanzo seguramente se vaya para la bueno porque estará con Genji directamente. Pues no me creo que vaya con Luz Sector. Sigma
ya, no creo.
Sigma es el más... Ese sí que sé que no sé.
Sí, es verdad, Sigma estaba en Blackwatch.
No, Sigma no. Sigma estaba en científico loco, se piró la cabeza.
Pero que Sigma estaba en Blackwatch. Estaba con Reaper y con Moira.
Sigma está en Talon, no.
Ah, es verdad, Talon, perdón. En Talon. Entonces él también estará con ellos, supongo. Por muy loco que sea.
Y Baptiste también estaba y se fue.
Baptiste yo creo que sí que va a estar con Overwatch,
Baptiste se piró de Talon.
Por eso.
Va a seguir a Mercy. Mercy está en Overwatch, así que va a ir.
Sí.
Todo el mundo a seguir a Mercy. Todo
el mundo a seguir a Mercy.
Así no morimos, ¿te vale?
Sí. Sobre todo ahora que le van a poner lo de resucitar en área, pues... Y más perdona que no tenemos ni puñetera idea de dónde van a ir a parar, ¿sabes? Bueno, hombre, Diva está claro, pero...
Diva no lo sé. Diva mejor no se va ni con... Diva no se va mejor ni con Overwatch ni con un sector. Se queda en neutro y ya está. Igual que Lucio.
Bueno, Lucio se ha ido con Overwatch. Por eso digo que el Diva y Lucio estaban más o menos a la par en cuanto a... ¿Sabes? O sea, que estaban en independiente.
Pero creo que Lucio está con Overwatch, pero porque está ayudando a su país, no porque se haya unido a Overwatch, creo.
No sé, es que... Sí, es que se han visto... Sí, se estaban viendo cinemáticas en el que Lucio estaba en la nave y estaba también en la base de Overwatch.
Pero a ver, se puede liar con alguien y ayudar a defender el país, pero ni sea Overwatch, es lo que estoy refiriéndome.
Ah, vale.
O sea, que sí, que mejor va con Overwatch, pero no se ha unido a Overwatch. No es como si Farah, que está clarísimo que se va a unir a Overwatch.
Symmetra yo tengo dudas, Symmetra yo tengo dudas,
Symmetra lo que a su país le interesa. Si su país le interesa en un sector, sea con un sector.
Claro, por eso yo Symmetra tengo dudas de con quién se puede aliar. Porque si no recuerdo mal, creo que Symmetra y Lucio tenían ahí un pique o algo así, ¿no? Se llamaban mal. Si mal no recuerdo.
Por tecnología, sí.
Por eso digo que yo a Symmetra la veo en un sector, tranquilamente. No, la verdad.
No, porque Symmetra en sí es buena. Lo que es su compañía es la mala. Pero Symmetra piensa que su compañía es buena.
Pero eso.
Por eso digo que yo a Symmetra la veo en un sector, pero porque ella piense que eso es lo correcto. O sea, no digo que sea mala, sino que lo veo dentro de un sector.
¿Qué más nos queda? Bueno, Hammond está por ahí.
Es verdad, Hammond
está
por ahí.
Hammond ya se va a ir o se une al dúo dinámico o se va a ir con Winston.
¿Y Junkrat y Rogue?
Está por ahí robando.
Esos dos son los que están luego, después de las batallas, cogiendo todos los materiales y todo, ¿sabes?
Todos los cadáveres, sí, me mola.
Hostia, y si meten a la reina de Junkertown, que tarde o temprano la tienen que meter, o sea...
Estará con Hammond.
Es verdad, estará con Hammond, es verdad.
Porque piensa que es el rey él. Bueno, él se convirtió en el...
Sí, me acuerdo de eso. Y no sé quién más nos queda. Bastión, Orisa.
Orisa sí que es buena, hombre, está basada en Zarya, no sé qué más.
Y no sé qué, nos queda más, pero se me ha olvidado, no sé. Sí, bueno, Echo ya sabemos, no es que no hace falta ni que lo mencionemos. Espera un momento, voy a iniciar el Overwatch.
Está Arti, le he dicho que sí quiere esperarse.
Ah, pues sí, ¿queréis echaros unas partidas de Overwatch, ya que estamos?
Yo no, yo voy a estar hablando de Chile, viendo un par de cosas que tengo que ver.
Vale. Es que a mí además me ha entrado ganas de jugar al Overwatch después de ver todo eso, ¿sabes?
Te digo en un momento, espera.
Vale, yo he estado iniciando por lo de los personajes.
Ana estará con Overwatch, Ashe, ahí está.
Ashe, claro, Ashe también tengo dudas,
El personaje que ni digo porque sabemos ya. Ya está.
Ya está, sí, es verdad, ya está.
Zenyatta sabemos dónde está. Zarya sabemos que está del lado bueno.
Luffy también sabemos de qué lado está.
Ya está.
Sí, pues sí, ya nos hemos hecho todos. Bueno, pues yo estoy en Overwatch. Si queréis venir, estoy en Overwatch.
Yo me voy a ver un video tutorial de cómo cagar en el pecho a la gente. No, ahora en serio. Me marcho.
¿Necesitas un tutorial para eso?
Correcto, para hacerlo bien.
Ah, vale.
Hay que ser inteligente. Bueno, yo
Venga, hasta luego.
Venga. La invito o le invito a Parte.
Pues invítale, si acepto, bien, si no.
No. Sí, Meishu, te has perdido la rapadita, sí. Te la has perdido. Da igual, luego lo subiré a YouTube también, ¿eh? Lo subiré a YouTube. Lo recortaré y lo subiré a YouTube. Sí, ya sé. Ahí voy a cambiar el directo, que ahora vamos a jugar, no vamos a estar comentando. Así que lo tengo que cambiar.